Hey, good morning. So I thought we'd start another charm pack block, and I'm using a layer cake today, and we're going to cut this into quarters, and that'll give us 4 charms, and that's what I'm going to use to make this next quilt. This is Riley Blake Old Fashioned Christmas, and I think you can still get this. If not, just find a bunch of fabric that you enjoy and want to make a quilt out of, and I'm sure you have plenty of these as well. So I set that over there, and what I'm going to do is just cut a few at a time here, but I'll do one so we can sample the block. And for this, I'm going to need a side piece, and I kind of like this. That's cute with the candy canes. And then one more. Let's do this star. Okay, so I think that's gonna give me, I need one more piece. Let's do that'll be in the middle. I'll put that on the outside. I need something that's going to go with the green, maybe. How about these Santas? I like that. Okay. Now I'll set these aside, and I'll cut these into quarters. So I've been working on getting some quilts done around here lately, and I just entered some quilts in the show down in Blackfoot, Idaho. I'm sorry if this goes slow for you. My brain just wants to think and talk at the same time is a difficult thing. Okay, so we're going to cut this directly in half, so that's going to be a 5-inch because it's a 10-inch square. I need to stand up to do this, so bear with me for a minute. Okay, I'm going to set that aside because I only need 1 bits right now. Okay. Okay. Now, the block we're making is the same block that we've been making in our color group. It looks like this, and it's a picket fence, called a picket fence, and it's really pretty when you put it in your quilt on point, but you can do it either way. So we will make this, and what I want to do is I want that for my center, and I want this and this for my outside. Okay, so we're going to put this together, and we're going to draw a line across. So take 2 of your charms, 5-inch charms, and we're just going to draw a diagonal line across there. Okay, then we're going to stitch on each side of that. I just like to tuck a little pin in so things don't shift around, but you can do it without that. You don't need to have a pin in it. Okay, we're just going to go. This is such a quick block. You'll really enjoy this. I enjoyed it. It's suitable for a beginner because there's nothing that you need to match up except the center, and I will show you how to do that. The one in our color group is smaller, and it finishes out at a smaller block, and I'll give you those dimensions if you want them, and you can always join our color group, and the pattern is on there as well. Okay, we're going to cut this in half. That's going to give us our two half square triangles. Okay, I'm just going to finger press this to the dark fabric, which is going to be my outside bit, I think. I'll decide that in a minute. Okay, we're going to set that aside for a minute. Now we're going to take this one and we're going to cut it 2 1/2. And we're going to cut this 2 1/2. Okay, we're going to set that piece aside. We don't need that right now, okay? I've got my 2 light pieces, and then I'm going to cut this one 2 1/2. And I'm going to cut this one also 2 1/2. And I will give you all these dimensions, so don't worry about trying to mark them down. You can just watch as we go through this. Yeah, okay. So I've got 2 1/2 and 2 1/2. And then this one needs to be, let me get my, yes, babe?
You are?
I am. And this one needs to be 4 1/2 inches. So I've got 4 1/2 right there. Okay. And then I'm going to need another little piece that's 4 1/2 inches. So I will take that one and I will use 2 1/2. And by 4 1/2. Okay. We'll set those aside. All right, so we have a 4 1/2, a 4 1/2, 2 1/2, 2 1/2 inch squares, and we have 2 of our half square triangles. And I will give those a quick press here. Let me pop my iron up. I'm going to bring this down so I don't have to reach up for it. My iron will be out of your view, but that's okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to stitch these 2 together. Okay. And we're going to stitch these 2 together. And you can chain piece these if you get all your components cut out, all your pieces. You can just start chain piecing away. Okay, I'm going to finger press this to the dark side, and then I'm going to take and I am going to stitch just like that. I'm going to attach the red to the corner, just kind of like you're making a log cabin quilt. Okay. Again, finger pressing this open, and we're going to attach that. Okay, I think I'll just do it to the same side because it doesn't much matter. Okay. This is a great block if you have a group and you got to crank out a bunch of quilts. This one's a quickie. It doesn't take a lot of expertise, and there's very little possibility for error. Now I'm going to make sure once I get this pressed open. I'm going to measure this square, and that will determine the size of my half square triangle. Okay? So let me just press these real quick. So anyway, I was saying the Blackfoot Eastern Idaho quilt show. Eastern Idaho. Okay, these should finish at 4.5, which it does. Okay, so that's the size that we want our half square triangles to finish at. So let me just press this real quickly. And then we're going to measure these, and if they need to be trimmed down a little bit, which they probably will, we will get them trimmed. Okay, so I want to do this so that I have my line on my diagonal, and it looks like they're going to finish right out at 4.5. Perfect. Okay, so we don't have very much trimming to do on this one. There's a little bit of tips. Okay. Very little, very little. We like that. Okay, so there's really no waste with this block. The trick to half square triangles is always finger press open. You want to make sure this seam right along here is open completely. You don't want to stretch along the bias, but you want to make sure you have opened that seam completely before you press it. That way you're going to get an accurate cut when you go to measure and see what you're doing here. Okay, we have a little bit to trim off here. Okay. Need to get one of those ergonomic cutters so I don't have to stand up and cut. I don't have the leverage in this hand. I had carpal tunnel surgery and I just don't have it like I used to. Okay, we've got that out of the way. Now we're ready to assemble our block. I think I'm going to put my green to the middle, and just like this, and just like this. And look how cute that is. Okay, we're going to stitch these two together and these two together, and we will talk about how you press that so that we get an accurate center match. And all the seams are 1/4 inch. So you're just going to pop it over. This is a great block if you have a lot of scraps and you just want to cut up scrappy bits of fabric and do it. You can do that too. Okay. Some people like to web their quilts. I'm not a web fan, but you know, you do you, boo. It's all good. Don't worry. Okay. Now, the trick to getting this to lay properly is you have a half square triangle on this side and you have like a log cabin block. And we're going to press to the log cabin block on both of these, okay? So just lay your block out. Just like this. Looks like we made a mistake, doesn't it? But we didn't. Okay, you're going to press to the log cabin block on both sides. And then when you flip it over, these are going to nest beautifully. So kind of squeeze them, and when you pinch them like that, you can feel that the seam has come together in the middle. I like to tuck a pin in one side. Don't put it in the seam. You won't get an accurate seam that way. Okay? There we go. And now we're going to just stitch that together. I don't sew over my pins. And look, they're going to yell at me for leaving my cutter open again. I don't have small children in the house, and it's a bad habit. Always close your cutter when you set it down. When I'm in here quilting by myself, I usually do it, but when I'm doing an instruction, for some reason, I don't close it. I've probably got my mind going in another direction. Okay, so you can see we got a perfect point in the middle where it matched up. And then you can open this seam. Now you can spin it. If you want to spin the seam, you can do that. And that's just pull this little seam open here in the middle and give those little snips. Those threads in the middle just need a little snip there. And that'll let you spin your seam, okay? And then you can press it that way. Okay, I don't care for that on this particular block because then you have bulk right in the corners here. So I prefer on this particular block to press this seam open. A lot of people say, oh, you don't press seams open on a quilt. Yes, you can. We don't sew seams by hand any longer. We have machines, so those seams are secure. And if you go ahead and press them open, you'll reduce some of the bulk in that when your person goes to long arm your quilt. It will be helpful. So, or if you're going to sew it on your own, I'm just pressing this for you real quickly to give you the finished block. Isn't that pretty? What a simple block. And how quick, how long did that take me, even taking time to explain it to you? And if you put these on point, they look very dramatic. I am gonna make a quilt with this, the rest of this, excuse me, the rest of this layer cake. So I will show you that when I'm finished. But look at, you have perfect areas here when you're gonna match it together. And let me give you the dimensions of this. I'll grab my big ruler here. I'll tell you what the block size is that this finishes out at. And it's gonna finish out at, looks like 8 1/4, 8 1/2, 8 3/4. Like an 8 3/4. 8 1/4. You could trim it down to 8 1/4 and it would be fine. So beautiful, huh? Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. That's another quick and easy charm pack block. You can use your charm packs. You can use a layer cake and cut it into quarters. And I will post the dimensions for you, so it's going to be a very easy block to make. Hope you enjoyed that. Talk to you soon.